Now, it's the countdown to WRC Safari Rally. That's the 2026 edition. The competition will be going down in Naivasha, of course, a very rugged and tough terrain. And we have our drivers gearing up, sprucing their cars and whatnot. Zita, I'll come to you on this. Of course, later on, we'll be hearing from one of the drivers. But first things first is this Safari Rally. We are hosting it now for the fifth year running. And of course, we got this back. We got the rally back to the WRC calendar after a lot of lobbying by the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta. And this is not just about the rally itself. There's a lot at play. There's the tourism aspect. There's raising the profile of Kenya. Last year, we had billions of eyeballs actually following the Safari Rally. And basically, the stage is set. From where you sit, how do we leverage this competition or rally as a sport to also market Kenya, raise Kenya's profile? And of course, our drivers will be hoping to be among the best performers.
I'm so happy that the drivers and they got the sponsorship, because actually many of them, the Kenyan drivers, were talking about they don't have money to participate in this, and I'm happy that the sponsors came in. Something else that I'm happy that you hosted here, the CEO of Magical Kenya, and she talked about this, and she's talked about how they're going to market and put this in the outside there in the world, and how moving them from where it's always in Naivasha and taking another, hosting it in another place, whereby like people should see Kenya at a large. And she said that after this here, of course, they're going to choose another place that again the next rally will go. And this is part of marketing Kenya. We're not only showing Naivasha, we're going to show Nakuru, next maybe will be Nandi, next will be maybe, I stayed in a place called Kipsamoite. It is uko interior kabisa. When you go, kuna mlima, unashuka kwanza, unatembea, ndio gari inapanda mlima, ndio mnapanda tena. So I think showing this, it's good for the Kenyan on the market, and people will not be talking about Kenya, about athletes alone. You will talk about the WRC, and then again you see rugby. Again, we did the series of Division 2. So again, this is just good for Kenya and marketing, and again in tourism side, a lot of people will be coming from outside, and they will come and see what Kenya is all about. So for me, it's a plus for Kenya for hosting this, and then the renewing of course the contract of hosting this. It's a plus for us.
Steve, before you go to the Bundesliga, we've hosted this, but no Kenyan has actually come close to winning this. It's actually the foreign athletes. You talk of Sebastian Ogier, you talk of Elvin, and all the big boys from Europe. But understandably, we can't begrudge our local drivers. You look again still the aspect of sponsorship, which we are talking about here. Last week we had rally drivers crying over sponsorship, and of course early exposure. You look at the top rally drivers, they're very, very young, 22, 23, but already topping the world. You compare with the age brackets at home, Steve, again, you realize most of our drivers are really quite advanced in age. You're talking of men in their 40s, compared with the age bracket in Europe and the aspect of sponsorship. What's your expectation as broadly to Naivasha?
I remember some Kenyan names back then, like Ian Duncan, who really did very well. But again, just like golf, it's an expensive
very expensive, yeah.
Yeah, so that aspect, some people are not comfortable when we bring them up, that this is a rich man's sport. They try making it look good, but in the real sense, it's a rich man's sport. Probably rally tunafaidika kama Mkenya wa kawaida kukua a top fan when they pass along Nakuru, Nairobi highway. But again, the end result of it is that what this rally brings to Kenya trickles down to our local places, because now we are talking of the economy. For the last 5 years, the world has known Naivasha. And service providers kutoka chini up to pale juu have benefited from
actually this is the only rally leg where you will be racing and of course trying to avoid hitting a zebra.
Yeah.
I think last year was the driver who said, I was not sure whether to stop and take a photo or to race against the time.
Yeah. So I think it's exposing our beautiful country out there. And there's a driver who said, this year I came to participate, but I promise you I'll come back for holiday. So it's a very good, very fertile platform to market Kenya, and for that sake, I think the marketing agencies have done a very good job in showcasing what Kenya has to offer. Look at the terrain. They talk about it.
Actually, they are coming for a rainy season. Actually. Traditionally,
it will be spectacular this year, and I'm sure the pictures you see them on international publications. So it's a good thing for Kenya. Back to back, I think it's the third international sporting event that Kenya is hosting. Now, leave alone Wakili trying to bring us some local tournaments. And over the weekends, I can equate that to a local tournament that was held at Buhungu Stadium. Super 8 tournament that included top
high schools
in Western, like St. Anthony, Musim,
Kakamega.
They held a very successful tournament at Buhungu.
I think Shtera has
tournament will come there.
Just to add on, Shtera has been saying, Shtera I think amesahau sisi watu wa sherehe pia tutakuwa huko kwa mpigo tafadhali.
Service provider.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, so apart from service providers.
Just hold on. Sagini, there's a big conversation within the Safari Rally, which we've not tackled here. And there are changes which the government made this past week. And Sports CS Mvuria gave a statement which many in newsrooms were not really happy with, because it was not pointing or hitting the nail on the head on the changes. But the thing is, right now, this Safari Rally, most of the operations are going to be led by the private sector. For long, we've had what's called the Safari Rally Steering Committee. Of course, we have the CEO and so on. But the big boys in the corporate, I don't want to mention them here by name, but we know who they are. They've come forward and say, now, we want to have a strong control. And of course, in English, whoever pays the piper
calls the tune.
Calls the tune. Basically, that's what we are having now here. These corporates now are going to have more say. They are also going to take charge of the monies and see that ABCD falls into place. And of course, we know what they've always done. Maybe talk about these dynamics without really having to mention these corporates. But how do you take, first of all, the changes that were made?
First of all, to put it on record, just like golf, WRC Safari Rally is one of the legs on the WRC calendar. And this is the only leg which is held in Africa. And Kenya is lucky to be the host for the past 5 years.
After a lot of lobbying.
I'm hoping that the contract will be extended, or we will have a new contract for the WRC Safari Rally. And if you ask every driver who comes to Kenya during the Safari Rally, the likes of Otanak, Rovan Pera, Ogier Sebastian, they'll tell you...
Actually, it's Rovan Pera who talked about this holiday thing, I think.
Exactly. They'll tell you, actually, this is the hardest and toughest leg in the WRC calendar. Talk about the private sector being made now to own the Safari Rally. I believe it's one of the things that it was missing in the previous editions. Remember last year when William Ruto, the president, was launching last year's edition, he said clearly that this rally should stop depending on the government in terms of funding. They should depend on private sector. And I believe privatization of the Safari Rally into the private sector this season or this edition is going to improve and is going to attract more sponsors on board, because if you are the one managing that Safari Rally Swila, and you are one of my colleagues in terms of the private sector, and I'm also a colleague of yours, I believe I'll come there confident, knowing that I'm going to get a return on my money if I invest in this rally. So I believe this is one of the biggest key changes, and I can't wait to see the after effect of it after the rally concludes in Naivasha.
So for you, do you support the changes that were made?
Yeah, I fully support them. Yep.
Okay. Wakili, maybe your final thoughts on the rally before we go to German football?
Yeah, I wish all the contestants all the best. also keen to see how the committee, the CS had said that there'll be a committee from the private sector that will now steer the running and management of this series and also the future of the series. I'm anxious to see who it's composed of. I don't know if it was already unveiled. If it is not yet, let us see. Of course, there were some murmurs from the tone of the CS statement. It appears as though there were some murmurs of discontent to the previous regime, and therefore it necessitated some changes. An event cannot be successful without the backbone of success is the management. So we are keen to see who will do it so that other sporting disciplines can also borrow from. In the aftermath of the successful CHAN, His Excellency the President hosted a pool of corporate organizations at State House, and there were talks which were jump-started as to partnering the football the football regime again from the private sector. So it is very important that we do everything magnetic enough to pull the private sector. Without them, we may not be able to go far. You realize even most of the teams in the Kenyan Premier League or even in volleyball that do not have struggles in paying salaries are teams which are directly owned or sponsored partially by the private sector.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the WRC, the countdown, and of course Naivasha, all roads will be leading to that. Of course, Otto Tanak, Rovan Pera, Elvin, all the big names in the driving scene globally will be here. Of course, man, battling machine, the battle of endurance, and the rough, rugged terrain of Naivasha. And of course, we will be there to tell the stories on our platform, Citizen TV, Inoro TV, Ramogi TV, all our 13 radio stations, of course, Radio Citizen and Citizen Digital will also be giving you detailed write-up on that. So make a date with us then. It's now time to talk German football, and Bayern München